Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the 31-day Creative Pep Talk. My name is Alicia Renice, and for the remainder of the month, I'm going to be sharing some inspirational tips and encouragement to all my fellow creatives out there. This is for me just as much as it's for you. So here we go. So day 2. How much would you create if you weren't afraid? There's this myth that the more that you create, the less afraid you become. And I think there's some truth to that, but honestly, I don't really think fear ever really goes anywhere. And I think people are waiting until their fear leaves them to actually do something. But what I've learned in my creative journey and what I am learning is that the more you create, it's not that fear goes away. It's just that you build strength to keep going through fear. You create in spite of fear. You talk to people who you look up to who are really, really successful. And, to them, it seems like they're fearless and they're not worried about what people say or what people think. They're not thinking about, how it's going to be received, how whatever they're doing is going to be taken. It can really, really seem like, where they are is so different from you. But what I've heard from a lot of people that I look up to is that they never stop being afraid. They never stop questioning what they're doing. It's just that they make the choice to create in spite of fear. So I wanted to debunk that myth that in order to create great work, you have to not be afraid, or in order to start creating, you need to wait until you're fearless, because that day will probably never come. You'll probably always be afraid. But fear is well-wishing. It's a good thing. It's just up to us to continue to create and to make things and to share things in spite of our fear. And oftentimes when we're afraid and we still share something, it resonates with someone. It's not perfect. It has flaws. It's not all put together perfectly. But like when we're honest and we're authentic and when we share in spite of our fear, it's encouraging to other people. When people that I look up to tell me that they're afraid when they create something, it's encouraging to me because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not so different than you. Like you might be further along in your journey and you might be a better insert whatever here. But at the end of the day, like you're still human and you still have to deal with those human emotions. And that gives me hope that I can create great art in spite of my fear. So I ask you, what would you create if you weren't afraid? What would you create if you weren't afraid? Because like I said, the fear will probably never go anywhere. So the question should be, what will you create in spite of your fear? Like if you didn't give so much power to fear, to other people, to, the possibility of failure or whatever, like whatever your fear is of success, what would you create? And why aren't you creating it? I had to ask myself that question. And for me, the fear was other people's opinions. And that's something I've been wrestling with my whole life, not even in my creative journey, but just in life in general. And I don't want to give that any more power than I have. I don't want that to stop me from creating. I don't want to miss out on opportunities because I'm too afraid of not being perfect or not being ready or being successful, So I just want to encourage you all today. If you're afraid, it's okay. It's normal. It's fine. And don't believe the hype. Don't believe the myth that you have to be fearless in order to create great art. Oftentimes, great art is created in spite of fear. And it's often used to encourage other people, maybe not at the conception of the art, but learning about the artist's process that encourages other artists to continue to create in spite of fear. So today for day 2, create in spite of fear, and ask yourself, what would you create if you weren't afraid? And then create it, because you always will be afraid. But a lot of those fears that we have are not real. We give it more power than it should have. What's the worst that could happen? If you share a piece of art, if you write something and put it out there, the worst that can happen is somebody will ignore it or somebody will talk down about it. You won't die. You won't die. You won't lose your life. Hopefully you won't lose friends. And even if you do, let them go. Like you can mourn that relationship. But what about your art? What about what you were created to? What about what you were created to do? What you were put here to do? Do that thing, okay? In spite of fear, right? So thanks for listening to day 2. I hope this was encouraging. Create in spite of fear. Don't let fear control you. You control what you do in spite of fear, all right? And oftentimes, one more thing, when you're afraid and you do the thing, afterwards you're so much more uplifted and encouraged, and you're like, dang, I did that thing. I thought I was gonna die, and I did that thing, and now look at me, I'm better. And so at every level, it'll be a new fear, but you can conquer it just like you did the previous one. You know, you give yourself some proof that you're capable of doing things. So please don't let fear stop you from doing anything. Create in spite of fear. We need your work. We need your art. We need your success, because ultimately it'll help somebody else. Right? So have a great day. Continue creating, and I'll see y'all in day 3.